Hi, Pocket. 400 tentacles later. In Monster Hunter Wilds, when you hunt a specific monster 20, 30, 40, and 50 times, you are given a title. These titles do nothing mechanically, but socially, they're pretty much as good as it gets. I mean, who doesn't want to hold the title Void Shadow Walker? I'll be hunting them all in this fashion, 50 of each. This time, I'm hunting Zhu Wu, or Zhu Wu, or Uwu. Zhu Wu unlocks the titles Zhu Wu, Concealed, Void, and Shadow Walker. Before starting the hunts, I already hunted 26 Zhu Wu, but I'll still be hunting another 50, up to 76. This time with Insect Glaive. I loved this weapon in Rise, so I'm excited to learn it here too. If you'd asked me before these 50 hunts, Zhu Wu was, in everything but name, the undeniable apex of Wyveria. After all, it shares so many telltale signs of an apex. For starters, it's a creature tied to one specific location, Wyveria. The same way apexes pick their stomping grounds and really stick to it. Additionally, it succeeds in all its turf wars, clinically knocking down monsters and dragging them to swallow them whole, or try to. A brutal monster, prowling the shadows of the ruins of Wyveria. Then, there's the description of Zhu Wu in the monster log. It's decorated as a stealthy hunter, even earning the in-lore nickname the Piercing Assassin. We're told that it preys on guardian monsters. The guardians, immune to exhaustion, constantly siphoning power from the Wilk to wage battles against one another across the ruins. These monsters are no joke, but to Zhu Wu, they're a feast. The opportunistic hunter Zhu Wu chooses such dangerous prey, and thrives in the underbelly of these ruins. And to top it all off, our only other cephalopod, New Udra, proudly reigns as the apex of the basin. It just felt like Zhu Wu was destined for a similar glory. A throne beneath the feasting grounds of Wyveria, only reaching up with a tentacle when hungry to steal a meal or butcher one itself. Alas, the truth can be disappointing. Zhu Wu is no apex. While it boasts its own unique gem, a hallmark of powerful monsters, its tempered version can't reach that 8-star difficulty. The difficulty that I had been getting used to lately with the release of Legaia Cruz and Seregios, turning me into a shocked up pincushion. This inherent weakness became more noticeably clear through my 50 hunts against it. If the ruins truly have a ruler, it's more likely to be Arkveld or Zoshia. Sad Zhu Wu, you truly deserve more. Out of all the non-apex monsters, this is the one I'd most love to see get an Arc-tempered upgrade, or even a variant. Maybe I just love the cephalopods, they're new, I can't help it. New monster excitement. Initially, I fully expected Zhu Wu to be one of the more difficult hunts in this 50 monster journey. My recollection was of a punishing, relentless foe, with really fast attacks, getting wiped out by the starfish spin and never knowing the right time to launch my offsets or dodges against it. And honestly, bringing an Insect Glaive into this without much prior experience beyond some training room practice only amplified that frightening expectation. Ow, 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 ow. Ow. Oh, death. Thank you, Jettison. But after having already battled the apexes and many other monsters in this challenge already, a surprising realization dawned on me. Zhu Wu really isn't apex material. In its current state, it's really on par with the other non-apex monsters. Though it had initially caught me off guard, as I expected, as I learned its tricks and its weaknesses, the patterns became very clear, and weaknesses apparent. And suddenly, the Piercing Assassin became a punching bag for me and my new pet bug. Noble Phantasm, Rising Spiral Slash! Nice try, kid. If you've been keeping up with the 50 Hunt series, you know that one of my favorite things to do is find a monster's weak point. Weak points are temporary wound-like indicators that appear on a monster after, during, or sometimes even before certain attacks. The easiest example of this is Rei Dao's face after a lightning blast, lighting up like a Christmas tree. When performing a focus strike on a weak point, it puts that weak point on a cooldown, but the stagger is slightly longer than an ordinary wound break, making them a fantastic source of extra damage and openings. But I saw something shocking when I visited the monster log. For the first time, I saw no weak point was listed for this one. Truth be told, that was a frightening discovery, but when I looked again, the same is true for Zoshia's listing, and I know that monster has weak points. I've managed to catch those many times. The only clue I had was in the monster's description, in the helpful hints section. When one exposes its mouth, that means a deadly attack is coming, but with a powerful blow, you might be able to topple the creature. Ah, terror. Generally, when the blue underbelly of the Shuwu is exposed, it's during dangerous attacks, either the four-bladed samurai slash combo, or worse, the spinning spiral starfish swoosh of certain demise, Shuwu's ultimate move. It wasn't an easy process. I tried and tried, and the failures were agonizing. Even a slightly mistimed offset would result in a potential cart, and I wasn't that familiar with Insect Glaive's offset at first anyways. It definitely wasn't as simple as holding the uppercut with Greatsword, where I could always bail out with a guard or a shoulder check. I had a habit of trying to run away, vaulting or dodging this attack, which was often successful. But I realized this move got significantly more difficult or even near impossible to evade based on the size of Shuwu. A large Shuwu covered so much area with that sweep. With that boulder flying toward me, I had to make a choice. If I wanted that elusive secret weak point, I'd have to follow a lesson Toph taught to Aang. I'd have to stop flying away from the attack. There's no different angle, no clever solution, trickety trick that's gonna move that rock. You've gotta face it head on. Alright. And, with some persistence, I did it. Slamming into the attack with an offset sent Shuwu flying, rolling onto its back for an amazing knockdown. Shuwu's mouth is extremely weak to all types of damage, that's slashing, blunt, and shot types, while maintaining the high weakness to ice damage. By flipping Shuwu over, this lets you output an insane amount of damage before it gets back up again. Needless to say, this is bigger than hitting a wound, and it's even bigger than most other weak point hits, so it's extremely useful to get the hang of. I was working on mastering my offset, learning from Toph's teachings, standing my ground. But little did I know, I was on my way to making yet another discovery. On Hunt 36, when Shuwu grabbed me, instead of raising my carving knife to stab my way out, I already had my throwing knives loaded, so I raised my slinger, aimed it directly down into the hideous mouth of Shuwu, and before my eyes, I had found it. There it was, the weak point, hidden inside Shuwu's mouth during the grab. I managed to glimpse into Pandora's box without releasing all of its evils, and by firing my slinger into the mouth of Shuwu, even with just a throwing knife, this immediately triggers the powerful knockdown. This means, as long as you have a slinger ammo loaded, and throwing knives are infinite, getting grabbed by Shuwu is an incredible damage opportunity. If you're hunting with a squad, it's absolutely not a bad idea to let Shuwu grab you, and wait a while before firing into the mouth, giving your whole group ample uptime to wail on the monster while it's preparing to attack, and then getting flopped onto its back. I mean, yeah, don't cut it too close or you'll get eaten and probably die, right? Probably, but maybe not. Definitely worth the risk. Area 12, deep in the ruins, is where Shuwu makes its nest. It's where Shuwu will retreat to when it's weak to go back to sleep, so I got very familiar with this area. Much like New Udra, Shuwu can't be blinded, and when it wants to leave the area, it will just go up to a wall and schlorp inside, vanishing quickly to somewhere else on the map. And if it's low, this is generally where it'll go. Shuwu has some unique moves in this area. Very often, it'll suddenly vanish, much like it does in the introductory cutscene to the monster, by sliding into the cracks between the rocks. Then, it can quickly reappear elsewhere, sometimes quickly falling from the ceiling to perform a quick, deadly version of its ultimate attack. This made the monster very difficult to track. I'm used to using the L1 trick I discovered with heavy bowgun to realign my camera very quickly to the monster. But it's a bit like in an MMO, where a target forcefully removes your targeting of it. It did a very effective job at tricking me, and almost every time it performed this move, I would get hit by the sneak attack that came after. Thankfully, because Shu Wu comes here when its health is low, I was more often than not arriving here simply to finish it off with a couple quick blasts. But if I ended up dueling Shu Wu in this place, it could spell some serious danger for me. Be wary of these unique moves. The unique lighting in this area can make it difficult to track Shu Wu as well, especially when it starts exuding this weird smoke. And speaking of that weird smoke, it did absolutely horrible things to my game. I know my computer isn't the best, and it often struggles with keeping up during some of the more intense parts of the game, but for whatever reason, it could not handle this little smoke stuff. I'm not sure if it's an intentional part of the monster or something, but my brightness seems to occasionally start glitching out whenever I got near this smoke. It ended up being a pretty interesting mechanic, I guess, to have to play around, and though it made my eyes very, very, very unhappy with the game, it was an unexpected and unique challenge that I will gladly accept. Especially when this glitch started happening in Area 12, I was often barely able to see anything, making it near impossible to track Shu Wu's movements in the dark. It was like Nocturne's ultimate ability from League of Legends every few seconds, my vision getting restricted so Shu Wu could jab at me from the shadows. I'd love this if it didn't happen, and I can't tell if it's an intended mechanic or my computer and I are just allergic to whatever smoke this monster seems to be radiating. Either way, an uncommon, albeit difficult situation. Does this happen for any of you? As I got more proficient with the insect glaive, these hunts got easier and easier. When I wasn't offsetting its ultimate spin attack or shooting into its mouth with throwing knives, I was bouncing between wound grabs and mounts. These hunts were actually a breeze, and I had a ton of fun with them. 50 Shu Wu later, I had spent a total of 3 hours, 35 minutes, and 15 seconds in hunts, which means each hunt took about 4 minutes and 19 seconds on average. My shortest hunt against a tempered Shu Wu was Hunt 22 at 2 minutes and 53 seconds. But Corrupted Mantle is really strong, isn't it? Once I got a hang of the insect glaive, chaining the attacks together, I genuinely felt stronger than I ever had, and it reminded me more and more of the fact that Shu Wu is just like any other monster. At a certain point, with enough damage, it can kind of just get pummeled into oblivion. Without the strengths that 8 stars provide, not just in the greatly expanded health pool, but in significant wound resistance, Shu Wu falls prey to many of the common hunting strategies I'd picked up from other monsters. Yet another reminder of its non-apex status. It definitely caught me off guard fairly often with its quick pokes, and even by the later hunts when it would jab with its spear hand, I would often get hit. I didn't have a perfect success rate with the spin either. That definitely caught me very often. The precision and speed of this monster is not to be doubted. However, sitting at around 400 defense, I had little to fear in terms of surprises, even against tempered versions. Without any points in flare, I still had enough wounds if I wanted to supplement even a second insect glaive's diet. This really surprised me. After all, I was so frightened of this monster initially, and had such high hopes for its power. But with the prominence of 8-star tempereds like Mizutsune, Gormagala, Soregios, and Lagaya Cruz setting the example of a deadly, dangerous monster, revisiting Shu Wu didn't necessarily disappoint me, but reminded me of how far I've come as a hunter. The attacks can still surprise me, but I find myself picking up things significantly quicker than I used to, and that feels really, really cool. By the end, I gathered 300 golden corniums, 111 claws, 279 hides, 84 tentacles, 66 fangs, 118 certificates, 22 cerebrospinal fluids, and 44 Shu Wu Umbra Gems. But most importantly, the titles Shu Wu, Concealed, Void, and Shadow Walker, that I may become Void Shadow Walker, Apex of Wyveria. I hope some of these Shu Wu tricks I learned can be of use to you, fellow hunter. If you're feeling bored or stale on wilds, I can't suggest trying out a new weapon more. Even Insect Glaive, if you haven't. Playing a new weapon for these 50 hunts always gets me excited. Even when I'm editing the footage together, adding sound effects, writing the script, and recording, I'm thinking about the game, watching my gameplay, coaching myself, and looking for small areas of improvement. Trying out a new weapon is always stepping into a new domain, even if there are some skills that carry over. But it's always just as rewarding, if not more rewarding, than the previous time. Playing with Insect Glaive has recontextualized not only the Shu Wu fight, but plenty of other monster attacks that I've struggled with. The moment I'm done working on this video, I'm hopping right back into the Grand Hub and trying out some new things. After all, I've got another monster to hunt with this thing before it's too late. And, maybe we'll skip the list a little this time. Until next time, fellow hunters, thank you for watching. Good luck, and goodbye.